Namaste students, welcome back to my channel. In our previous video, we have studied about the oxo acids of the sulfur, and in that oxo acid of the sulfur, we studied that the most important oxo acid of the sulfur is the sulfuric acid, having formula H2SO4. So today, in this video, we'll study all about the sulfuric acid. Its preparation, properties, uses, all about we'll study in this video. So without any delay, let's get started. Sulfuric acid, that is H2SO4, having formula H2SO4. In our previous video, we have studied the structure of the sulfuric acid, and with the help of the structure, we get to know that its oxidation state of sulfur in sulfuric acid is +6, and the basicity of the sulfuric acid is 2. Now, in this video, we'll talk about the preparation and the physical properties of the sulfuric acid. So, we'll study sulfuric acid but in two different parts. In first part, we'll study about the preparation and the physical properties of the sulfuric acid. And in second part, we'll talk about the chemical properties and the uses of the sulfuric acid. So, first of all, we'll start with the preparation of the sulfuric acid. Preparation of the sulfuric acid. Now, the sulfuric acid is prepared by a method which is known as contact process. So, we prepare sulfuric acid by contact process. Now, why contact process is preferred over other processes? Why the contact process is preferred over other processes? Because the sulfuric acid which we get from the contact process is free from the arsenic impurities, and because of this property, that sulfuric acid can be easily used in the formation of the edible products. So why we prefer contact process? Because through contact process we get arsenic free H2SO4, which we can easily use in the formation of edible products, in the preparation of edible products. So because of this reason, we prefer contact process over the other processes. So now we will study the different steps of the contact process. What we will study? The different steps of contact process. Now, the first step of the contact process is the formation of sulfur dioxide, either by the burning of the sulfur or by the roasting of the pyrites, by the roasting of the sulfide ores. What first step is the formation of sulfur dioxide, either by burning sulfur, or by roasting of sulfide ores. Now, what is roasting? Roasting is the heating of the sulfide ore in the presence of the oxygen to convert the sulfide ore into the oxide ore is known as roasting. So, formation of sulfur dioxide either by burning sulfur or by roasting of sulfide ores, we get SO2. So, if I write the reaction, S plus O2 on heating gives SO2, or ZNS plus O2 on heating gives ZNO plus SO2. So, either by burning sulfur or by roasting of the sulfide ore, we get sulfur dioxide. So, this is our first step of the contact process. Now, the second step of the contact process is the catalytic oxidation of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide in the presence of the air. What? Catalytic oxidation. Catalytic oxidation of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide in the presence of the oxygen. So, our second step is catalytic oxidation catalytic oxidation of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide in the presence of air. In the presence of air. Clear? If I write the reaction, it is SO2 plus O2 reversibly gives SO3, where delta H comes negative. Where delta H comes negative. That is, change in enthalpy is negative. Now, this step, this second step is the key step of the contact process. This is the main step. This is the key step of the contact process. Always remember that second step is the key step of the contact process. Means if we get more amount of SO3 in second step, then we get the more amount of sulfuric acid through the contact process. If the yield of SO3 is good in the second step, we get good yield of sulfuric acid. But if we get a poor yield of SO3 in second step, then we get a poor yield of sulfuric acid through the contact process. So this step is the key step of the preparation of the sulfuric acid. So for the good yield of sulfur trioxide, we have to set up a condition, we have to arrange certain conditions so that we get a good yield of SO3. So what are those conditions? Those conditions are on the base of the Le-Chattrell principle. In our 11th class, in equilibrium chapter, we have studied this principle, that is Le-Chattrell principle. So the different conditions, the conditions which are required for the good yield of SO3 will decide with the help of the Le-Chattrell principle. So what are those different conditions? What are those different conditions? The very first condition, if we look the reaction, first of all, this is a reversible reaction. Second thing, it is an exothermic reaction. It is an exothermic reaction. So the very first condition is the temperature should be low. The temperature should be low. Because the reaction is exothermic, so if we increase the temperature, the reaction will shift in the backward direction. The reaction will shift in the backward direction to attain the equilibrium again. So because this is an exothermic reaction, so we'll get heat along with SO3. So with increase in the temperature, what happened? Product side heat increases, and due to the increase in the heat in the product side, the reaction shift towards the reactant side, as a result of which we get less amount of SO3. But if our temperature is low, then we get more amount of SO3 because the reaction will shift in the forward direction. So the first condition is low temperature. Now the second condition is high pressure. Second condition is high pressure. Now why we required high pressure? If we look the reaction, if we balance the equation, here we have how many oxygens? Here we have 4 oxygen, here I have 3 oxygen. So if I balance this equation, it becomes, if I write 2 here, the sulfur becomes 2 and the oxygen becomes 6, and here. It is the balanced chemical equation, 2 sulfur and 6 oxygen. Now if we observe the balanced chemical equation, here we have 3 moles, 2 moles of SO2 and 1 mole of oxygen. Here we have 2 moles of sulfur dioxide, means 3 moles get converted into 2 moles. Means there is a reduction of the number of moles, and whenever there is a reduction in the number of the moles as we move from reactant to product, we require high pressure for a good yield of product. This is again according to Le-Chattrell principle. So due to the decrease in the number of the moles, high pressure favors the forward reaction, whereas low pressure favors the backward reaction. So First, low temperature. Second, high pressure. First is low temperature and second is high pressure. Now, the third condition which we require, because the temperature is low, so for faster reaction, for a speed up reaction, we require a catalyst. So third one is the presence of the catalyst. Means because of low temperature, the catalyst enhance the rate of this reaction. Now in this particular step, we use two catalysts, either platinum or vanadium pentoxide. We use two catalysts, either platinum or vanadium pentoxide. But out of platinum and vanadium pentoxide, we prefer vanadium pentoxide as the catalyst. Clear? Both are good catalysts. Both enhance the rate of the reaction, but if we have a choice between platinum and the vanadium pentoxide, we'll choose vanadium pentoxide. Now, what is the reason behind this? First of all, the cost. Platinum is expensive, whereas vanadium pentoxide is not too much expensive. Second thing, platinum can be easily poisoned by the arsenic impurities. Clear? Platinum can be easily poisoned by the arsenic impurities, but vanadium pentoxide is not poisoned by the arsenic impurities. So because of the cost and the prevention from the arsenic impurities, we prefer vanadium pentoxide over the platinum. So third is catalyst. So we'll use catalyst so that we get a good yield of sulfur trioxide. Now the fourth one is excess of oxygen. If we have excess of oxygen, then we get a good yield of sulfur trioxide. And the fifth condition, the very important condition is the purity of the gases. We are studying from the starting that there are arsenic impurities are present in the particular sulfide ore or in the sulfur dioxide gas. So there should be the purity of the gases. Means if we have pure gas, then the yield of SO3 is good. But if we have impure gas, then the yield of SO3 is not good. So these are 5 conditions. If these conditions are applied in the second step, we get a very good yield of sulfur trioxide. And if we get a very good yield of sulfur trioxide, we get a very good yield of sulfuric acid. So this is the first step, that is the formation of SO2 either by the burning of the sulfur or roasting of the sulfide ore. Second, catalytic oxidation of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide in the presence of the air, and because it is a reversible reaction, therefore these are the conditions. Now the third step is the absorption of the sulfur trioxide to 98% H2SO4 to form oleum. So third one is the absorption of sulfur trioxide by the 98% H2SO4 to form oleum. So absorption of sulfur trioxide by 98% H2SO4 to form H2S2O7, which is known as oleum. And what is the second name of this compound? We have studied in our previous video, that is the oxoacids of the solid, oxoacids of the sulfur. We have studied another name. So absorption of sulfur trioxide by 98% H2SO4 to form oleum. The second name of oleum is This is your homework. Tell me the second name of the oleum. So the reaction becomes SO3 plus H2SO4 gives H2S2O7. And the fourth step is the dilution of the oleum, to get H2SO4 of desired concentration. H2SO4 of desired concentration. So now the reaction becomes H2S2O7 plus H2O. It gives H2SO4. So these are the 4 steps with the help of which we can prepare sulfuric acid. But the key step, the main step is the second step, that is the formation of sulfur trioxide. The more sulfur trioxide we get, the more sulfuric acid we get in the contact process. Now we'll draw the plant of the contact process, with the help of which we get different apparatus. We get to know about the different apparatus with the help of which we can easily understand the formation of the sulfuric acid through the contact process. So this is the diagrammatical representation of the contact process, the plant of the contact process. So first of all, this chamber. This chamber is known as sulfur burner. This chamber is known as sulfur burner or pyrite burner. This is known as sulfur burner or pyrite burner. Now, if you remember our first step, that is the burning of the sulfur or the sulfide ore to get sulfur dioxide. So that's why this is known as sulfur burner. Now in this we have different chambers. In these chambers either we kept the sulfur or we kept the sulfide ore, Now from here we are sending the air. From here we are sending the hot air through which the sulfur which is present, the sulfur or the sulfide ore which is present here, they get burned and get converted into SO2 So from here we get impure SO2 plus O2 in the form of the gas. So from here we are supplying air. In this chamber we have either the sulfur or the sulfide ores. Sulfide ore or sulfur reacts with the air to form impure sulfur dioxide plus oxygen. Now this one is known as dust remover. This particular is known as dust remover. Now the SO2 and O2 which is coming from this chamber, if they contain dust, so the dust is removed in this chamber by showered with the water. We'll shower a steam of the water, and through the steam of the water the dust get removed from SO2 and O2. After the removal of the dust, it will go in this particular chamber. Now this particular chamber is known as washer. Now all the soluble impurities are washed away in this chamber. In this we have removed only dust, not other impurities. But in this we'll remove the soluble impurities from the impure SO2. So in this, from here SO2 and O2 is entering in this chamber. From here we are sending the spray of the water. SO2 and O2 will come upward while the spray of the water falls downward, as a result of which it dissolves the impurities, soluble impurities of sulfur dioxide which is present in the sulfur dioxide, and along with the waste water we get the soluble impurities. So here this SO2 is free from dust. Now from here it will move out of the chamber, and now this SO2 is free from the water soluble impurities. First it's free from the dust, now it is free from the soluble impurities. Now this will enter in the third chamber. This will enter in the third chamber, and this is known as dryer. This is known as dryer. Now for dryer we use concentrated sulfuric acid spray. We will use the spray of the concentrated sulfuric acid because sulfuric acid has a very high affinity towards the water. So this SO2 is free from the water soluble impurities, but it is wet. Why? Because of the presence of the water spray. So in this we through this we dry the wet SO2, and from here we get a dry SO2. We get dry SO2 and O2. Dry SO2 plus O2. So the wet SO2 plus O2, from here wet SO2 and O2 enter this chamber which is known as dryer. From the bottom, SO2 and O2 will move upward while the concentrated sulfuric acid spray is moving downward. So it will absorb all the water which is present around the sulfur dioxide and the oxygen, and from here it will exit, it will leave that particular chamber, and from here the dry SO2 and O2 leave the chamber. Now it will enter in this particular chamber which is known as arsenic purifier. Whatever arsenic impurity is present in the sulfur dioxide, that impurity is removed from the arsenic purifier, because this arsenic purifier contains gelatinous FeOH whole thrice which absorb the arsenic impurities. This arsenic purifier contains gelatinous FeOH whole thrice, and this gelatinous FeOH whole thrice absorbs the arsenic impurity which is present in dry SO2 plus O2. Now after this, the SO2 and O2 will enter in the testing box, from where we get to know whether the sulfur dioxide is free from all the impurities or not. If it is free from all the impurity, then it will move to preheater. But if it is not free from the impurity, then it will send again to dust remover, and the process will continue. First dust remover, then washer, then dryer, then arsenic purifier, and then again testing box. So after testing box, the SO2. Now from here we get pure SO2 and O2. From testing box we get a pure SO2 and O2 that will move to preheater. Now there is a question in your mind that we have studied in the step that when SO2 reacts with O2, it gives SO3 and the reaction is exothermic. Then why we are sending these two gases in the preheater? Preheater means a box which provide heat, but the reaction is not favorable at high temperature. So why we require that heat? This heat is required for the initiation. Heat is required for the initiation, and after the initiation we get energy from the reaction itself, because the reaction is exothermic reaction. So for the initiation of the reaction we require preheater. So when they move to preheater, in preheater the temperature is 720 Kelvin. So these two reacts to form these get heated. Sulfur dioxide and oxygen gets heated. So from here we get heated sulfur dioxide and oxygen. Now the heated sulfur dioxide and oxygen enters in the catalytic converter, and this catalytic converter contains vanadium pentaoxide as a catalyst. Means in all these plates we have vanadium pentaoxide. So SO2 and O2 will moving upward, and due to the presence of the vanadium pentaoxide it get converted into SO3, and from here we get SO3. means in this particular chamber SO3 will enter. SO3 will enter. So now this chamber is known as absorption tower. This chamber is known as absorption tower. Absorption tower. Now in this chamber SO3 is moving upward and the 98% concentrated H2SO4 spray is falling downward. So that spray of concentrated H2SO4 reacts with the upcoming SO3 and get converted into H2S2O7, that is oleum. H2S2O7, that is oleum. And when we dissolve this H2S2O7 into water, we get desired concentration of the sulfuric acid. We get a desired concentration of the sulfuric acid. So this is the absorption tower. In this, concentrated sulfuric acid absorbs sulfur trioxide to form oleum, and when we dissolve oleum in water, we get a desired concentration of the sulfuric acid. And in our industry, these two steps, that is the absorption of SO3 by H2SO4, means the formation of the oleum, and the dilution of the oleum takes place simultaneously to prevent the time and to prevent the cost. So the last two steps, first step, that is the formation of sulfur dioxide. Second step, that is the catalytic oxidation of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide. These two steps occur separately. But the third and the fourth steps occur simultaneously to reduce the amount of the cost or to prevent the time. So because of this, we get H2SO4. So this is the overall steps of the contact process, and with the help of this diagram, you can easily write the theory which is based on the contact process. And why we use H2SO4 in the absorption tower? Because SO3 has a very less affinity towards the water. That's why we'll use H2SO4, which easily absorb SO3 to form the oleum, and then we use water for the dissolution. If we use water here, we get very less amount of the sulfuric acid because SO3 has a very less affinity towards the water. Now we'll study the physical properties of the sulfuric acid. The different physical properties of sulfuric acid are: first, it is a colorless liquid. The pure concentrated sulfuric acid is a colorless liquid. Concentrated sulfuric acid is a colorless liquid, which is also known as oil of vitriol. Which is also known as oil of vitriol. So the other name of the concentrated sulfuric acid, pure concentrated sulfuric acid, is oil of vitriol, and it is a colorless liquid. Second, it has a very high boiling point and high viscosity. It has a very high boiling point and viscosity. Now the reason behind the very high boiling point and the viscosity is the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. The intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So it has very high boiling point and its viscosity is also very high because of the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Third, it is highly soluble in water. It is highly soluble in water, means it has very strong affinity towards water, and because of this, when it dissolves in the water, it produces immense amount of heat, and as a result of the release of the immense amount of heat, we have to take care while converting the concentrated sulfuric acid into the dilute one, and that precaution we all know, that we have to add acid in the water. We don't have to add water in the acid. So sulfuric acid has a very strong affinity towards the water, and because of this affinity, we have to take care while converting the concentrated sulfuric acid to the dilute one. So it is highly soluble in the water. It is highly soluble in the water, and because of this, the reaction of the sulfuric acid and the water is exothermic. The reaction is exothermic. And the next one, fourth one is it is highly corrosive in nature. It is highly corrosive in nature. So these are the physical properties of the concentrated sulfuric acid. That is, the pure concentrated sulfuric acid is a colorless syrupy liquid and also known as oil of vitriol. It has a very high boiling point and high viscosity due to the intermolecular hydrogen bonding. It is highly soluble in water. It has a strong affinity towards the water, and because of this, the reaction between the water and the sulfuric acid is exothermic in nature, and it is highly corrosive in nature. So, this is all about the preparation and the physical properties of the sulfuric acid. In next video, we'll talk about the chemical properties and the uses of the sulfuric acid.